I'm Chris of Light and Joy Designs. Welcome to the Crochet Magical Mystery Tour, a year-long crochet along with free weekly patterns, monthly giveaways, and more. Today I will be showing you how to make the stained glass cowl, which is the 13th pattern of the Crochet Magical Mystery Tour. Check out in the description below for all the other patterns so far, and be sure to subscribe and click the notify bell so that you'll be alerted of future patterns as they come out. So let's get started. For this version, I used Super Saver stripes in Fruity Stripes for the colored portion, and I used Super Saver in Red Heart Super Saver in black for the contrast color. For today's version, I'm going to use Super Saver stripes in Polo Stripe, and I'm going to use Super Saver by Red Heart in light gray. So if you don't like working with dark yarns, you can always make it with a lighter yarn. Today we're also going to be using a 6.0 millimeter hook, a J hook. You'll need a scissors, a yarn needle, and a measuring tape. So the way that we construct this is we make 8 of the granny squares first, and then we connect them, and then we make the bottom part of the cowl. You're going to be learning how to work through the back horizontal bar to create this raised effect in the striping here. You're also going to learn how to do surface crochet, as I did with this stripe here. And that's pretty much it. So let's get started on the granny squares. So as I mentioned, we're going to be making 8 of these squares, and we're going to be using the Super Saver stripes yarn that has lots of different colors in them. And what we're going to do is we're going to work the inside portion of the granny square from the inside of the yarn, and the outside portion from the outside of the yarn, and then vice versa. And what we'll also do at different times is what I did is I took portions off, cut them off, so that I can use them as I need them and when I want to get to a new color. So you can see that there's a gradual gradation of the colors, but they're pretty distinct. We have sort of a fuchsia color here, a more purpley fuchsia. We have a light purple, and then like a deep purple, then this blue color, then kind of a teal, and it goes into green. So my recommendation is that you are going to kind of cut this skein up so that you can get to all the different colors. You're certainly not going to use the whole thing, but like some of it we'll end up using on the border at the bottom. So there won't be too much waste, and anything you have left over you can add to your scrap yarn pile for a scrap project later on down the line. So let's start a granny square. Okay, so like I do in my other videos, I like to show you where we're going. To make a granny square, even though they're pretty simple and pretty basic, there are different ways that you can complete them. One is with using a magic circle. That's the first version I'm going to show you today. And then we're going to chain 3. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets. Then we're going to do 2 chains. And this chain 3 counts as a double crochet. And together they make what's called a shell. And then we're going to have another shell over here of 3 double crochets, chain 2, another shell of 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then another shell of 3 double crochets, and we'll finish with a chain 2 and a slip stitch into the top of the 3rd chain of our chain 3. So that's going to be our round 1. So we're going to start with a magic circle. Lay the yarn on top of your hand. Take the yarn behind your hand. Bring it and cross it over to the left and then over the top of your fingers. Take your crochet hook and turn the hook down. Go under the first strand and grab the second strand and then twist it towards you. Then just grab onto that with your thumb and forefinger, and you're going to chain 1 and pull that tight to secure it. And now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And when working into a magic circle, I find it's easier to work with it when you kind of close up the circle a little bit. Now we're going to do 2 double crochets, so we're going to yarn over, go into the magic circle, yarn over and pull up a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook, and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2, and that's a double crochet completed. So let's do that again. Yarn over, go into the magic circle, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now our first shell is completed, and it's time to build our corners. So we chain 2, 1 and 2, and now we're going to do 3 more double crochets. Again, you can close up that loop a little bit more if you would like. And we have our second shell completed. We're going to chain 2 and do another 3 double crochet shell. Chain 2 for the next corner, and we're going to do our last 3 double crochet shell. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. I'm going to take this tail and just put it behind, because that's the back of our work. We want it to be in the back. And now we're going to slip stitch to the top of the 3rd chain of our chain 3. So we can just kind of count it out, 1, 2, 3. And what we're going to do is go into that 3rd chain, and we're going to do a slip stitch, and you just yarn over, pull the loop through that 3rd chain, and then pull the same loop through the loop on your hook, and that is complete. So now what you want to do is you want to take the tail that's in the back and you want to pull the circle closed. And what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and we're going to cut the yarn. And then pull that yarn through and pull that tight. And now you can see that even now our little square is starting to shape up. And at this point, my recommendation is to sew in your ends as you go along, because then at the end you're so happy that you did that that you don't have to do it later on and sew in a bunch of ends, when what you really want to do is try on your new garment. So just feed it through and then go backwards once. And just cut that. And then the magic circle, that kind of loosened up, so I'm going to pull it tight again. And we'll just sew that in as well. Okay, so our first row is completed, and now we are ready to begin row 2. Okay, so now for row 2, what we're going to do is we're going to attach our yarn, our next color, into this corner space, and we are going to chain 3, and in the same space we're going to do 2 more double crochets, so we're creating another shell. Then we do a chain, and we do a 3 double crochet shell into this chain 2 space into the corner, and here we're going to create another corner with another 2. So at every corner you have 2, and in between shells, if it's not a corner, you have a chain 1. So now we have another chain 3, another 3 double crochet shell into that same chain 2 space. We have our connecting chain 1 like we did over here, and then we just do the same thing again. A 3 double crochet shell, chain 2, and another 3 double crochet shell. We have our connecting chain, and you probably know what's coming next. 3 double crochet shell, chain 2 for the corner, another 3 double crochet shell on this corner, and a connecting chain, and then we're going to do our last 3 double crochet shell into the corner that we had started in, and we're going to finish with a chain 2 for that corner, and we're going to finish with a slip stitch to the 3rd chain of our chain 3. Now if you were to make a larger, this is going to be the full size of our granny square for this project, just 2 rows. And if you were to make a larger granny square, you would just continue with this patterning. So the next row would have 2 clusters in the corners, and every place where you have a connecting chain you would do a shell, and in between those shells and the corners you would have single connecting chains. So we may have another project like that later on. We'll talk about that more then. So as I mentioned before, I had cut off this darker kind of maroon color so that I could get to the next color, which is a more fuchsia color. I don't know if you can tell the difference. This one's darker and this one's a little lighter. So I'm going to use this lighter one now for row 2. And to connect that, we're going to start with a slip knot. I saw a cool way of how to do that today. Put it over your finger, kind of like when you do the magic circle. Cross it over to the left, and then you lift the first one up and over, and then you just grab this one, and then you have your slip knot. So that's kind of nice and easy to do. All right, so now that we have a slip knot, we're going to attach it to one of the corners. And actually we want to make sure that we're on the right side. So the way to tell which is the right side is you'll see these V's facing towards you. So that's the right side. And then the back side just has not as nice of a look as the front side. So we want to attach to the front side. So I'm going to put my hook into one of the corners. I'm going to put the slip knot onto my hook, and I'm going to pull it through that corner, and I'm going to chain 1, and I'm just going to pull it tight to fasten it to that corner. Now we're going to chain 3, and we're going to do 3 double crochets right in that little space right there. So and if for some reason your chain 3 looks a little bit bigger than it needs to, like in this case, I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to make that into a chain 2. Sometimes sometimes you only need a chain 2 for approximating a double crochet. So I'm going to redo that second double crochet. There, that looks closer in height. And we're going to do a third one. Okay, so that's the first shell of that corner. So now we're going to do a chain 1, and then we're going to do a shell over in this corner. It's 2. Oops. So that's 3, and now for our corner we're going to chain 2, and we're going to do another shell in this same chain 2 space. So 1, 2, and 3. So we're here, now we're going to do a connecting chain 1. That brings us over to this corner. I'm going to do another 3 double crochet shell. So that's 3, chain 2, and another 3. Now you can probably guess what comes next, a connecting chain 1, and then we're going to do 2 more of these 3 double crochet shells in this corner. Chain 2, connecting chain 1, and now we just need to do one more shell in our corner that we started in. Okay, and now we're going to chain 2 for our corner. 1, 2, like we did here, and then we're going to slip stitch to the top of our, in this case I only did a chain 2, but yours might be a chain 3, but whatever that last chain is before this stitch right here. So it's this chain right here. So I'm going to go into that chain, and I'm going to slip stitch. I'm going to yarn over, pull through the yarn, and then pull it through the loop on my hook. And that is a granny square for this project completed, a mini one. So we're going to just chain 1, cut the tail, pull it through, tighten that, and I'm just going to sew in my 2 ends, and then I'll start another one, and I'm going to show you how to make it with a different starting center. So that's our granny square completed. Now let's show you how to make it in with a different strategy. Instead of the magic circle, what we're going to do is we are going to chain 4, and we're going to slip stitch into this first chain. So it goes chain 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into the first chain, and it creates this circle. Some people prefer that method, so let's take a look at that. You can also do a chain 3, makes the circle a little bit smaller. It's up to you. So I'm going to show you with the chain 4. So we did a slip knot. I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to go into the first chain, this first V. I'm going to go under 2 threads of that chain. I'm going to grab the yarn, pull it through, and pull it through the loop on the hook. And now we're going to have a little tiny circle. So from here we're just going to do everything the same. The only difference is how we start it. So we're going to start with a chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 more double crochets, chain 2, and so on all around. And then we just finish with a slip stitch into the top of the third chain. 1, 2, 3. And just like before, we're just going to chain one, cut the yarn, sew in those ends, and then we will do our second row in a second color. So now I'll just show you row 2, speed it up again. Start with your slip knot. Okay, so we finished with a chain 2, 1, 2 for that last corner. I'm going to go into the top of that chain 2 that I did. Yours might be a chain 3 if you need it. I'm going to slip stitch right into that chain 3. Then I'm going to chain 1, cut the yarn, and sew in those ends. So what you should do now is make 8 of these, and as I mentioned before, pull out the yarn and cut it and to get to the other colors. You always have the option of using whatever colored yarn you want, obviously, but I like doing this because it has so many colors in it, and it's an inexpensive yarn. It's easy to do. All right, so meet me back here when you have 8 of these completed in all different colors. Okay, so now I have my 8 mini granny squares, and I've arranged them in the order that I want them to be in my stained glass cowl. So that's the first step. So once you do that, I would say just stack them, and then you'll just grab them as you go to connect them. So we'll start with these 2 here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to connect them all along this edge in a long line. So I'm going to connect these 2 like this. So if you look at the front of your granny square, you can see that we have these 2 V's, these 2 threads that make up a V of each of the stitches. We're going to be working in the outside V and leaving this inner thread alone. So we're going to be connecting using just the outer thread on this side, and also the outer thread on each of these V's. And we're going to start at the corner with the second chain 2. Here's the first chain 2, here's the second one. And we're going to go into that one on this side, just in that outer thread. And on the other one, we're also going to go into the outer thread. And then we're going to take our contrasting yarn. In this case, I'm using light gray. and I'm just going to pull it through. I'm not even going to make a slip knot. It's not really necessary. So I'm going to pull that through, and then I'm going to do a chain, and I'm going to tighten that. That's going to secure it. I'm going to get the loop just the right size on my hook. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to single crochet in each corresponding stitches together. And as I go, I'm going to work in this tail as I go along as well. So here's our next stitch. I'm going to go into the outer thread on this side, and I'm going to go into the outer thread on the other. There's the inner thread, and my hook is under the outer thread on the blue side. I'm going to yarn over, pull through a loop. I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through those 2 loops, and that's a single crochet. I'm just going to do that in each stitch, keeping the tail in between so that it gets worked in as I go. My tail got below me. Get that back up there. This is going to give us a little bit of a raised ridge between each of the granny squares. And our last stitch is going to be the first of the chain 2s on this opposite end corner. Okay, so then I'm just going to chain 1, and I'm going to cut that yarn, pull the yarn through and pull that tight. And this tail, since it's been worked in, I'm just going to snip it. If you wanted to, you could work it back just one time on this side to give it just a little extra security if you want. Okay, so that's the first set completed. And now you're just going to do that. You're going to grab your next one. You're going to do the exact same thing with each one. And when they're all connected, we're going to connect the first and the last, and then we'll begin on the body of the cowl. So here I have all of my mini granny squares connected, and now we're going to begin the body of the cowl. So I'm going to start by I'm going to do a magic knot to attach my yarn. I'm using one of the tails from the connecting points, and I'll just show you. Just take the 2 ends of the yarn you're connecting, and you're going to hold it tight between your thumb and your forefinger. You're going to take the long end, just leaving a little bit sticking out. You're going to wrap it around your thumbnail and under the yarn, kind of tight twice. Then you're going to take the yarn and leaving a piece over here, you're going to go between your thumb and the yarn. So you'll still be able to see it here. I just kind of twist these ends together and while holding a lot of tension, fold it underneath and then pull tight, and you've got your yarn connected. And that one turned out a little messy. I might do that one over again. Okay, so this knot turned out a little better. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a single crochet in every stitch around, and we're also going to do a stitch in the place where we did our join. And what that's going to do for us is it's going to make the cowl, let me just raise up a little bit here. It's going to make it come out just a little bit on the base. So when it is around when it flows down over your neck, it kind of will lay out a little bit over your shoulders, just a little bit. And by having a stitch in each of these connecting places, it just kind of gives us a little bit of an increase of the circumference. So now that my yarn is attached, I'm just going to go into this first place where the yarn was connected, and I'm just going to pull up a loop, and I'm going to make a single crochet into that space right there. And then in every stitch across, I'm going to make a single crochet. When you get to the chain one space, you can either go into the stitch or you can just go right into the chain space, which is the way of my preference. So now I've gotten to a place where I have a tail, and I'm going to just start to work that in as I go along. So I'm going to go into that stitch, and as I go along, I'm going to make sure that that tail is included in it gets worked into the stitch. You see how it's right there? And then as I complete the stitch, it's going to get covered up. So just work like this all the way around, and we'll join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet when we get around there. So this is what your piece might look like now. I just did a slip stitch into the very first single crochet, and you can see how it is fanning out just a little bit, and that's what we want. So the next step is we are going to double crochet all the way around, and we are going to do that for 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. So let's take a look at that. So we're going to chain 2. I like to chain 2 instead of chain 3. I just think it to approximate a double crochet. And I'm going to go right into the same stitch with a double crochet here. And then we're just going to double crochet in every single crochet around. And when we get around to the other side, we're going to join with a slip stitch, and I'll show you that. Okay, so here I am at the very last stitch. I'm going to do a double crochet, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of the first stitch. From now on, I'm not going to count the chain 2 as a stitch. It'll make our seam look a little neater. So for the next row, we're going to chain 2, and in the same stitch, we're going to do our double crochet, and do that on each round. And when you slip stitch, you're going to slip stitch to the double crochet, not to the chain 2. So you're going to work, after this row, you're going to work 3 more rows of double crochet. If you want your cowl to be taller, mine is, this one that I made is about 7 inches tall from the top to the bottom, and it's about 26 inches around. So just go ahead and do 3 more of these rows, and then I'll meet you for how to do the striping. So I've just finished 4 rows of double crochet. I'm actually going to do 1 more. I didn't realize that we're going to need 1 more. So you can stop here and wait for the striping portion, but I'm going to do 1 more row of double crochet. Okay, so I have finished my 5th round of double crochet, and I'm ready to start the bottom stripes. So let me explain to you how this works. What we're going to do is we're going to do a row of single crochet in this center color, then a row of crochet of the contrast color, a final row of single crochet of another color, and then we're actually going to come back and we're going to do a surface crochet of this color into our last row of double crochet. So what you want to do is get your colors that you're going to want to use and get them lined up. So this is what I did. I took the yarn and I rolled it into these little balls of the different distinct colors so that I could pick out the 3 colors that I wanted. You don't have to do this. You can just go with whatever 3 come up, but I wanted to specifically pick my colors, so I'm going to go with this green, this lighter pink, and this purple. So those are going to be my colors at the bottom, and these can get saved for another project. Okay, so the order that I want my colors to go in are going to be like this. So I'm going to set the green aside because that's going to be the one that we do with the surface crochet at the end, and I'm going to attach this fuchsia color. And what we're going to do is, I still have my gray. We're not going to cut the gray because we're working in rounds. We'll be able to just pick it back up when we get around to the other, when we come back around. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our yarn and just fold it over. You don't have to make a slip knot. Put it on your hook and pull it through that loop. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pull your contrasting color nice and tight, and that's going to kind of secure it down. I'll just get that out of the way. And we'll work in this tail as we go. So in the first stitch right here, I'm just going to do a single crochet to start. And just kind of pull that tail a little bit tighter. And now what we're going to be doing is we are going to be working right into each of the double crochets with our hook for single crochets all the way around. So very simple. Just go ahead and go around with single crochet, working in that tail as you go. And I'll meet you when you come back around. All right, so I've gone all the way around with single crochet, and I'm going to join to this first stitch with a slip stitch. And I'm going to rejoin my gray, my contrasting color. Yours might be black or some other color. I'm going to pull that pink tight to secure the gray, and I'm just going to cut the pink. And now we are going to, we've got one here, we're just going to do a single crochet here just to get started. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do single crochets that go through the back horizontal bar. So you can see in the single crochet we have these V's all along, and that's usually where we go in for the stitch. We go under those two V's. If we turn over the single crochet, you can see in the back of each crochet is this horizontal bar, and that is the bar we're going to be going into. What that's going to do is it's going to take these V's and turn them out. So it's going to be a little bit, it's going to have a more decorative look. If for some reason you hate doing it this way, you can skip it and just do regular crochets. That's always a possibility. But it's not that many stitches. It's well worth the little bit of extra effort to do it. So I'm going to go into this first stitch right here. This back horizontal bar. It's not the easiest to get into, I will admit that. And I'm going to do my single crochet. And then I'm going to go into the next one and do my single crochet. And you can see how it's turning those V's, those chains out. Here's the next horizontal bar. Sometimes it helps to just grab it with your fingernail. You just take your time. It's not too bad. So go ahead and continue all the way around, and I will meet you when we're back at the beginning, and we'll slip stitch to finish this row. So if you really hate going into that back horizontal bar like I do, there is one other way that you can do this and get a very similar effect, and that is to do a back post single crochet. So what you're going to do is, instead of going into this back horizontal bar, you're going to go in under the stitch from behind, go around the post of that single crochet, yarn over, pull the yarn through, and do your single crochet. And the look is almost identical. I've done a few right here. You can see just a little bit of the gray poking through as compared to here, but it might be a little bit easier for you if you're having trouble doing the back horizontal bar. So I've just finished the last single crochet in the gray. I'm going to go into the first single crochet here and slip stitch, yarn over, pull through that loop, and then pull it through the loop on my hook. And now I'm going to attach my next color, which is going to be this purple color. I'm going to attach it the exact same way that I did attach the pink. Just going to lay it over the hook, pull it through the loop on the hook, and I'm going to pull that gray loop tight. And actually, if you'd like, you can cut it now. Cut the gray. And now we're going to, with the working yarn, we're going to chain one. Pull that gray one more time. And then I'm going to go into the very first stitch, and I'm going to work in I'll work in actually both of my tails as I go along. And I'm going to single crochet all the way around in this color. And for this round, we're just going to do regular single crochets. If for some reason you want to if you want to do the back loop kind again, you can, or the back post kind, you can do that. I might actually do that myself. So, but it's up to you. Either way, it's going to look mostly the same. So you can kind of do a few stitches and see which way you like the best. So I'll meet you at the end. If you do it as a back post crochet, this is what it looks like with the single crochet. You may want to do it as a half double crochet, which is you yarn over, and then we do the back post. We go in from the back of the stitch, around the post of the stitch, yarn over, pull through a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So it's just a little bit, gives you a little bit more color than if you're doing it like a single crochet like this. If you're doing single crochets into all the stitches, it's going to look like this. So you can choose which look you like best. Single crochet back post, half double crochet back post, or just regular single crochets. And I'll meet you at the end. It's just slight difference. So I just slip stitched to the first single crochet. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to cut my yarn and sew in those ends. And the next thing we're going to do is our third color we're going to do as a surface crochet into these posts. So let's do that now. Okay, so for joining our last color for the surface crochet, I'm going to go into the chain 2 under this chain 2 right here. And I'm going to wrap the yarn over my hook, and I'm going to pull that up. And then I'm going to have my working yarn in my hand. It runs under the cowl. I'm going to go over the top of that chain 2, and I'm going to yarn over, pull through a loop, and I'm basically going to chain 1. Now you'll need to pull the tail as well. Pull it nice and tight to secure it. And from now on, you're just going to go down through the next post, under the next post, yarn over, and you might have, just on the first one, you might have to pull that tail end again, and you chain 1. So we do that again. Whoops. We're going to go under the, sorry, not the one that we just did, but the next, go under the next one, yarn over, and chain 1. So you're always going over the one that doesn't have anything on it yet. Under, grab the yarn, yarn over, and chain 1. Go over the top of that one, and in between, yarn over, chain 1. And that's going to create this nice surface crochet. And you can do this, you can make all kinds of designs using surface crochet. And once you get a rhythm going, it'll just go by very fast. It's basically, these are just chains, or they're kind of like slip stitches also. It's like slip stitching around each of these posts. So just remember that you go over the top of the one that has no stitch on it yet, and go down in between that one and the next one, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull it through the loop on your hook. And just keep doing that. I'll meet you back at the end. Okay, so I just finished that last surface crochet chain, and I'm going to slip stitch it now by going into the first stitch and going down over that post, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then I can cut my yarn, and I can just pull that through and pull it tight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, okay, so I just threaded this needle, and I'm going to go in, see how this is pulling this way? So I'm not going to go down in there. I want to go down just one stitch up. Okay, like that. And then I'll sew that in the back as well as this one. And then we can do our final round, which is the edging on the top. Okay, so these colors are all set. We're just ready to do this top edging. And I'm going to turn it over to the back, and I'm going to go to one of these places where I have a tail, and I'm going to do a magic knot to put these two together. I'm just going to get a fresh edge there. We're in the home stretch now. We are so close to being done. This is almost done, guys. Okay, we'll got our little knot, and now we are ready to do our top edging. And the top edging is slightly different in that we're not going to have the little bit of expanders here where we went into both sides of this joining stitch. We're just going to have one stitch in each of the corners. So you're not going to, for instance, go into this stitch. You're just going to go right into the corner stitch. So I'm going to go into the corner stitch to start. I'm going to pull through a loop. I'm going to chain one, and now I'm just going to do a single crochet in there. And then I'm going to do single crochet in every stitch across. That's my dog you can hear in the background running around. So you can almost kind of count the stitches because you know you have your 3 stitches in the shell, and then you have just one stitch in the corner that you're going to do. You're going to skip right over this and go right to the next corner. Since I have a tail here, I'm going to work that in as I go. And you'll see it all marries up nicely. And I've got 3 stitches in this shell. I've got my center, my joining chain. Got 3 stitches in the shell. I've got my corner stitch on this square, and now I'm going to come right over here and do the corner stitch on this square. Then my 3 shell stitches, and so on. So just work all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end. I just want to show you one other thing that might make your work look a little smoother. Is when I was working with the black, this edge didn't show up as much, but it does a little bit with the lighter color. So what you can do is here's my corner stitch. When I come to this stitch, what I'm going to do is before I go into the next corner stitch, I'm just going to go into this ridge, this connecting ridge. Then I'm going to go into the corner stitch, yarn over, and I'm going to have 3 loops on my hook, and I'm just going to pull through. I'm just going to pull through all 3 of those. And then that makes a nice connection there with the with these ridges. Just finished my last single crochet. I'm going to go through this ridge. I'm going to go into the first single crochet. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm just going to do one big slip stitch into all 3 of those. Okay, I'm caught on something here. Okay, come through there and then come through the loop on the hook. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to cut the yarn, pull the yarn through, and it is finished. Okay, so the stained glass cowl is now complete and ready to wear. If you like this video and you like getting free patterns and tutorials, please give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe and click the notify bell so that you'll be notified of my weekly patterns that come out, as well as giveaways and yarn reviews and much more. So thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts in the comments, and please share your pictures on Facebook and Instagram. All the links are in the description below. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.